Welcome to Anything Cricket. Let's talk. I'm Philip Hackett, and in this episode, we're going to be talking about the ICC Women's World Cup. So, welcome to Deighton Smith, welcome to Mike Matthews. Wayne Holder is always with us. We're going to take what we learned from looking back and look forward to see where West Indies cricket can go as far as the women's game is concerned. So, Wayne, uh, I think I represented you quite well when I suggested that you're as keen as anybody else to talk women's cricket.
Well, as any West Indian cricket fan who has been following the the progress of the side in the World Cup until the unfortunate elimination at the semi-final stage, but I personally would like to congratulate the players and the management of the West Indies women's team for their performance in the World Cup there in New Zealand. I think they outperformed themselves spectacularly too, because here was a side who were not even supposed to win any of the first four matches they played. Here was a side that was anticipated that they would probably beat Pakistan and Bangladesh, put up a fight against South Africa and India, and lose to the Big Four. But as it turned out, they ended up in the semifinals. Um, I don't think that much more could have been asked of this group, and I think it is a triumph for all concerned. And as I said at the beginning, I can only offer congratulations, and I can see that we have a foundation, a platform, let's put it that way, with a number of younger players who would have participated with this team and who would have had the experience of a World Cup under their belt. As I said, we have that platform from which to launch our campaign for the next World Cup. I think the preparation for the next World Cup should start immediately.
In the semi-final game, the manner in which we lost disappointed a number of people, and a lot of people who were caught up in the euphoria of having got to the semi-finals. Today, as always in West Indies cricket, you heard the game being dissected and people talking about all that is wrong with West Indies cricket and everything we have to do to rebuild it. But if you go back to a program we did before the Women's World Cup, you will recall that in that program I said the West Indies would do well to get to the semi-finals. And at that point, I said we would do well because, as Wayne quite rightly said, there were a number of teams ranked above us and who, over the last 2 years, had a much better record than we did and who were playing better cricket at some point. In that program, I pointed out where I thought we were improving. And in that program, I pointed out the areas that I think that we needed to work on. First of all, I joined in congratulating the team on getting semifinals because they did well to get there, given their ranking, given the limitations they had. And then we have to ask ourselves, what have we learned? The truth is, we've confirmed the things that we said before the World Cup in terms of needing more depth in our batting, that we are far too heavily reliant on three players who must make big scores if we are to make big scores. We pointed out that there was a little deterioration in our bowling from where it was at. And the long and short of it, to put it in a nutshell, is that in the semi-final, we basically recognized all the things that we know we had to work on, worked against us. And so I think the only way we could look at our cricket now is to say, all right, we are quite clear on what those things are. And I'm sure we'll discuss them more tonight. And starting today, we should be saying, how do we start improving on those things so that the next competition we enter, we can visibly see that improvement?
Michael, you probably have a more personal stake in the whole thing than anybody else, if you will. No secret that your daughter Haley is not only a member of the team, but one of the key members of the team. Nevertheless, in every discussion that I have been a part of, that you've taken part in as well, I find that you're still able to make very balanced comments. What is your reaction to the participation of the women?
Good night, all. I think that they had their ups and they had their downs. Obviously, beating New Zealand and England. Before the tournament started, I discussed with Haley, the teams that they needed to beat to get into the World Cup semi-final. They had to beat Pakistan, Bangladesh, and they could beat South Africa based on past performances. She told me up front that we can beat New Zealand, and I think we can beat India. England and Australia are going to be tough to beat, but we will have to play some really good cricket to do it. But she did tell me up front that New Zealand was a team that she felt they could defeat because New Zealand's bowling is not the strongest. Their batting is strong, but not the bowling. They won their first two games, then they lost Australia and to India. And then Bangladesh, they barely won. They won, but they didn't have, after that, those two losses, things started to go basically downhill. The game against Pakistan was rain affected and they struggled on a turning wicket. But as things worked out, they got into semifinals eventually. And, I would like to congratulate them because despite people saying that, they only got there because of results, results is what gets you anywhere. And, regardless of what happens, results always have to go your way for you to get into a semifinal or final. So I think they held their own. They did more than what most people expected them to do. Because I don't think many people gave them a chance of getting into the semifinal. And, they got there. It was not a good game, but, as expected, Australia is the best team in the world by a long way. They had the depth that no other team has. And, they were just outplayed on the day.
Mike, that comment you made just now about someone saying to you or people saying that they only got into the semifinal because of results. My response to that, and there's a period of time between when you said that and now that I'm speaking, right? But my initial response to that, virtually, it reminds me of a calypso. I don't remember the specific deal, but part of the words to the song go, I'm gonna laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh and laugh. I don't know if any calypso people here who can remember which
A song by Mr. Dale.
Mr. Dale, yeah. At least I had the artist right. Good thing too.
Sorry,
Dale is a very good friend of mine, and if I didn't give him that credit, I would probably not be able to go by Kevin Henderson anytime soon. So, yeah, so that would be my response to that. I would just laugh and laugh and laugh. On so many counts that I wouldn't even need to discuss that before. So we're gonna move to Hartley Reid, who has been able to join us. Welcome, Hartley.
Good night, Philip. Good night, Mike. How are you doing, Michael Matthews?
Good night, good night, good night.
Deighton and Reid.
Good night.
From the outset, I said that they were not going to get to the semifinals. So, and then after we defeated both New Zealand and England 1 and 2, I did come on the show and I apologized for my pronouncement, and I wished them well.
But Hartley, let me correct you. You came on the show after the first victory, and you apologized. And I said to you, Hartley, it's only one game. Are you sure that you're ready to apologize? And you said yes.
I recall that.
So where are you now, Hartley? Are you in your apologetic mode, or are you back to the mode of they're not going to do right? Where are you? State your case.
In the semifinals, when the game was played, my problem with our team is that we did not prepare to play in that final. We were sitting and hoping that for some miracle, we would have gotten to the semifinals. But we were not practicing. Indeed, judging from what I heard the coach and the captain said she was on 3 days leave. The coach said he gave the girls some time off to relax. So we were not preparing for the semifinals. So when we got there, we just walked out of the hotel and went to the ground and played the game. So we were not, and we were in no frame of mind to compete. We just went to play, but we did not go to compete. Now, anyone who would have thought that we could have beat the juggernaut, Australia, the Hartley American sport, we knew that we could not have beaten that Australian team. My problem is not beating. My problem is looking as if you are representing a region and that you were given your best. That is all. Once you are given your best, angels cannot ask for more. And we did not give anywhere near the best. From the outset, I don't know if you are talking about the composition of the team and how we started the game in the semifinals, but we started without the correct team.
If I may jump in there on that point. A lot of times when people get into competitions, especially at the knockout stage, and especially when you're faced with a formidable opponent, it amazes me sometimes how our thinking gets suddenly very warped. And in our case, it wasn't sudden actually because it was coming. There were two things that struck me about that semifinal in terms of our strategy for the game. Now, throughout the tournament, we were over-reliant on the idea that spin is our strength and it will win for us. If you look at the stats of the bowlers in that tournament, there were only two of our bowlers who had an economy rate under 5. One of them was Aliyah Ali, the other was Ramarat. And yet we had no place for Aliyah Ali. We went into a game with 4 off spinners against a team who is known to put bowlers under pressure and to not sit back and just let you bowl at them. So as soon as you get on top of one off spin bowler, what makes us think that the others are going to come and do the job for you? In that case, I would, as a captain, I would want some variety. And I really feel we missed the trick in not having Aliyah Ali in there. We also missed the trick throughout the tournament with Chanel Henry, who, by the way, I think is developing into our best seamer at the moment. She's showing control. She has a bit of pace, not the fastest, but she's developing her pace. And she's showing a bit of movement through the air and off the ground. And throughout this tournament, every time she's bowled, she's done a good job. But if you look at her stats, you will find there were many of those games in which she did not bowl her full quota of overs, which suggests to me a lack of confidence in them. So in your strategy for the game, it was clear that we didn't think our seamers were a good option. And the second thing was we brought back Williams to open the batting. Williams played one game before this. She struggled for 17 balls to make 4 runs, and she could not get the ball off the square. What made us think that she was the right option to open against a team as strong as Australia? Not only strong, but a team who plans so well. I think that was asking too much. And what we ought to have done is stick to what worked for us all the way through. The same 2 openers that did so well for us from the beginning. We changed the opener, and you know what happened? We used up 10 dot balls. That's what happened, because Williams used 10 dot balls to make naught. And all that would have done is to make Haley come in under pressure, and it was a bad start.
Philip, my friends, when you go to air ground and the start is delayed because of inclement weather and the pitch is covered, you are lucky because you do not have to declare your team. You have to wait until the rescheduled start. So our management team there would have seen when the covers were eventually lifted off the pitch. They would have seen the condition of the pitch. They would have seen the tackiness of the pitch. They would have seen the green top. There is no way we could not, even if they had decided initially to go in with four slow bowlers, four spinners, because the only person that was spinning the ball was Haley. Haley was the only person that spun the ball for Cricket West Indies in that tournament. But apart from when the leggy, when Hartley both played. So we did not re-evaluate the situation. We still went and declared the team that they must have left the hotel with. And it was utter craziness. I couldn't believe watching that game that we started with first of all, Henry opened, dug it in short. Shamilia coming next over, dug it in short. They were just digging the ball in short and not pitching up the ball at all. I do not know because I wasn't there, but from this distance, I saw no planning. I saw no planning at all in that game.
Two things I'll say, Philip. One is this. I will repeat what I said before. Aliyah Ali had an economy rate under 5 throughout the tournament. That's our average economy rate for the tournament. So I don't accept that Aliyah Ali bowled any worse than the spinners. Chanel Henry's economy rate for the tournament is 5.0. The only spinner that had a better one was Ramarat. So I think you have to put it in that context. Now, in my view, the problem with the new ball was the planning. We started the new ball very often with a 7-2 field, and it was clear there was an instruction to bowl wide of the off stump. No attempt to get anyone out, things like that. But at the end of the day, whether you agree with it or not, and whether it looked good in terms of what you were seeing, in terms of what the bowlers were doing, they were not going for a lot of runs with the new ball. I mean, it may not have looked good in terms of what you saw, but they were not getting people off to these fast starts. So you might not like it, but they were doing the job. And at the end of the day, in the actual semi-final match, the two opening bowlers actually had the best economy rate of the bowlers in the match. So again, yes.
In which game, Deighton? In which game?
In the semi-final.
No, Haley had the best economy rate.
All of our viewers may not necessarily have watched all the games. So when you said the two opening bowlers, who are you referring to?
Sorry, Chanel Henry and Shamila Connell.
Okay.
But this is where if you would allow me.
Sure.
Sorry. Before you start, let me correct myself. Mike is right. I should have also said Haley Matthews had an economy rate on 3. It's 4.33. Yes, correct.
Right.
Sorry, Mike. But you're quite right.
Forget Haley and this. Haley was a star performer.
He was.
Let us stick to the fast bowlers. The problem started when the management or the coach did not intend to open the bowling with Aliyah Allen. Now, Aliyah, 3 fast bowlers, 3 of our pacers bowl in excess of 111 kilometers. Shamilia Connell, DeAndre Deighton, and Aliyah Allen. Those are the only 3 that went up to 114, 115 kilometers an hour for the entire competition. All the others were below 110, 105. Selma was below 100. The thing is that once again, for whatever reason, the decision was not to bowl Aliyah. Even when Aliyah Allen bowled, she never got a proper quarter of the bowling. So the entire thinking of the team was minus Aliyah Allen. And that is how come she got dropped, because she was omitted for a spinner.
But yeah, there seemed to be this belief that the Seamers can do it. Sorry, Mike, go ahead.
No, what I'm just going to say, what I can say is that, yeah, I totally agree that, based on the wicket and everything, Mohammed is not bowling well.
No,
she has not been bowling well for the whole tournament. And Aliyah, should definitely have played. She has been bowling well in the middle. I haven't seen her with the new ball, so I can't speak to that. But she has been bowling very well in the middle. And with the conditions, the overhead conditions and everything, we should definitely have gone with the extra seamer. To me, there was no need to play 4 spinners on a wicket. But I can't say it was not taking turn because Haley was getting turn bowling, but no one else got turn for the West Indies team.
We're going to take a break on anything cricket. Let's talk. Guys, certainly lots to talk about with the women's situation. Seems as though there's a lot of disappointment. The thing about it is though that the women came into the competition ranked 7th out of 18. And, you know, while there's a lot that they need to learn and a lot of development needs to take place, we knew this before they went in. You know, so I think that whenever we look at the events that took place at the HCC Women's World Cup, we need to bear that in mind, that we didn't really learn, to my mind, a whole lot that was new. Like,
Yeah.
In his opening contribution, though, might use the word depth. And I think that was always going to be an issue for the West Indies going into this tournament. We all knew, and the whole world, the whole world knew that the West Indies effort was going to be based around the quote-unquote big 3. And whatever our fortunes were going to be, it depended almost exclusively on the big 3. Depth was always going to be an issue. And we saw it, you know, we saw that when those 3, and we know the names, Deighton, Matthews, Taylor, you had to get a performance out of them. When they did well, West Indies did well. Game 1, game 2, the game where we just got home ahead of Bangladesh in that match. Even the South Africa match, we were doing fairly well. And they're talking about the opening bowlers. I thought that they did particularly well in that South Africa match. If you recall, Henry and Connell bowled quite well up front with the new ball in that particular match. So depth was always going to be the issue. And the West Indies, it showed itself. I was going to ask the question, what was the difference in the performance against Australia in the semi-final as against when we met them in the league earlier in the competition? It was basically the same thing. Australia was just too strong for us. And as I mentioned to someone while the match was being played, when Healy and Haynes were involved in that massive opening partnership, my biggest fear had come true. The Australian batting machine clicked, and that was the end of it. You know, that was about it. I mean, there was no more hope.
I think one of the reasons we dissect these things is because we want to look at where we're going from here. And there's some things that I think are important. One is this. One of the things that the West Indies could rely on is that they were, for a long time, a pretty good fielding team. It's been a bit of a surprise to me in this World Cup in that our catching has not been good. In a lot of these matches, we've dropped not a single catch, but several catches. As you quite rightly said, if you have a batting machine like that clicking, you cannot drop a single catch. You will play heavily. And we dropped 4 in that opening partnership. So going forward, I think the management would do well immediately now to do some work on our fielding again, so that the next time we come on the field, we should be taking more of our chances. That's one of the things. Another thing that concerned me and that we should be working on is our, should I say, mental approach. One of the things that I found stunning about the semi-final match was this. Stephanie Taylor came to the wicket and she spent 25 balls over her first 4 runs. During that time, she left alone at least 8 deliveries outside the off stump, made no attempt to play a shot. And I say that because I want to make this point. There was no point during her innings that I got the impression that she was making an effort to get these runs. There's something wrong with that attitude. There's something wrong with that approach, especially from your leaders. If going forward, if we want to make ourselves a real force in cricket, those are the things we have to work on. You cannot have, and she's not just our leader in terms of captaincy. She averages 44 in one-day cricket. She's our batsman with the most runs in one-day cricket.
If I may say something, she's an all-time great.
She is. And I have no doubt about that. So it really, the word in my mind, I was baffled all during that game. Huh? I don't know if it's declined. I'll tell you what I've been noticing. Last year, she had some kind of medical issue. I'm not sure what it was, if it was an injury or illness. But when she came back from then, she was never quite the same. She was being struggling to regain herself. And then it didn't help that recently she was struck by a bouncer, and she had to go through the protocols for concussion. And after that, again, she seemed to regress a little bit. So I think it's a question of rehabilitation more so than necessarily decline. I wouldn't want to jump to decline yet. I don't know if Mike may have a comment on that, but it seems to me as though since she had those issues last year, in fact, her bowling has now gone completely. She finds it very difficult now to spin the ball, to even keep it on the pitch. So there's some rehabilitation needed, and in terms of our going forward, that's one of the things I think the West Indies need to do. To whatever rehabilitation is necessary for Stefanie, it must be done, because she's an important cog in our wheel. So I wouldn't go to the point of saying she's in decline. I don't want to make that step. I do know that she never seems to have fully recovered from whatever her issues were medically last year.
Yeah, I really don't think that she's on decline at all. I mean, Stefanie is too good a player to just be on decline just so. I think that all of her confidence is gone. All. You can see, even when she's on the field just captaining, she seems so indecisive about everything. I just think that all her confidence is gone, and it is showing in all aspects of the game. Her bowling, the same way.
But Michael,
Mike, there's a word I would like to use in regards to Stefanie. One word: energy. Stefanie lacked energy from the beginning of this tournament right down to the last.
I concur.
I myself was a bit concerned. Actually, I'm saying I've been telling myself maybe we don't know everything, or not, we're not being told everything. But for a long time, I have observed all is not well with Stefanie. And I mean, it really came to the fore here in the match against Australia, the semi-final match against Australia. There was a total lack of energy. And anyone knowing Stefanie Taylor, she's involved, she's a part of the game. She makes her presence felt on a cricket field every single time, and we were not seeing that. And I just suspect that all could not be well.
May I
Hartley?
listen? What I can ask you one question. What is the difference in body language between Stefanie Taylor and Darren Bravo? Two excellent batters. Two excellent batters and persons that who carried the West Indies. It is unfortunate that you all only saw the lack of energy, the decline. I don't know how Mike can say on one hand that she is not declining, but she has lost everything. I don't know what that means. I don't know how he can.
He didn't say everything. He said confidence.
There's lost
But
confidence.
if you lose confidence, you have lost confidence. You have lost everything in life.
Yeah, but it can be regained.
How? Listen, since last year, Stefanie Taylor has shown the identical thing that she is showing now.
There's something in cricket called form.
Yes.
We all know that. Yes, but this is not form.
Called form.
This is not form.
There's something called form, and there's something called class. I don't want to go into the cliche.
Yeah, but no, I would not jump to the conclusion that Stefanie's finished. I'm with you, Wayne. I think we just need to do some work with her and get her back to where she contributes at the level that we know she can. I still think she has something to offer West Indies cricket, and you know what, you have to look at things like this when you're trying to struggle with coming back from injury and all that. Leadership weighs heavily on you. You know, does she need a little break from leadership? I'm not suggesting she's not a good leader. I'm just trying to suggest the things that that we might need to do to try to help her to get back to her best, which is where we need her to be. Because she is a great player.
Is there a mental health specialist in the backroom support staff?
I know there's one with the men's team, but I really don't know if there's one with the women's team. I do not know the answer. But if there isn't, there ought to be. If the men are thought to need one, why would the women not need one?
When Melissa Aguilera gave up the captaincy, Stephanie Taylor was given the captaincy because she was the best batter. She was never the best captain. She has never shown any form of good leadership in cricket. I do not understand, but okay, I suppose.
So are we going to say that the capture of the
2016 World Cup?
2016 World Cup was a fluke?
I think that's a very good question, man. I would not go to.
They didn't win on the answer.
Well, I thought it was addressed to Hartley.
Not from you.
All right. No, Hartley, I think you're being harsh there.
My life is being harsh. You see, unlike you all, I don't like to mix words because you all going to take me back to 2016 and tell you, I can't remember her captaincy in 2016. Can't remember it. That is 6 years ago. Can't remember it.
Well, somebody had to lead the team to that victory.
Well,
Maybe it may be a good idea though if we okay, don't let's go back anymore. Even the semi-final, it is done, it is dusted. West Indies lost at the semi-final stage, and we've got to start a new campaign towards the next World Cup. And I don't know if it may be too early for us to start sussing out, possible leadership material. Mind you, Stefani, Deandra, Deighton, but a lot of the more senior players in this side, they are not old as far as cricket is concerned by any manner. By the time the next World Cup comes around, Stefani and Deandra and those will be in the mid-30s.
Yeah,
and I expect them to be still around.
No,
that's 32.
The next fifth ever World Cup, both will be 34 going 35.
Like I said, mid-30s, right?
No,
Is that
yeah.
I don't think that
2025 is the next fifth ever World Cup.
Okay. So what I'm saying is that I expect these people to be around come the next World Cup. Somebody mentioned about leaving.
They're ready 31 this year. 3 years time, they'll be 35 and 34.
Somebody mentioned the possibility of relieving Stefani of the burden of captaincy. What I would like to throw out in the forum this evening is some of the possible candidates for the leadership at this point in time, for new leadership working towards the next World Cup.
But Haley Matthews captained those teams from the third game. From the third game, Haley Matthews was captain that team. When we beat Bangladesh, the only voice you were actually hearing, she was actually second the field.
Who captained the first two games, Hartley? That we won.
Stephanie Taylor. You saw any captaincy? You saw any captaincy in that?
Oh, yes, there was.
I mean, Hartley. Just for clarity, Hartley.
Haley made 119.
I'm trying to understand the point you're making. You're saying that Haley captained the team from the third game onward, but our best performances were in the first two games when Stefani was captain. So I'm just trying to understand how you would use that to suggest that Stefani didn't captain well. When we won the...
I never said she didn't. I didn't say she didn't captain well. I said from the third game, Haley Matthews captained the team.
Okay, so what are you saying? I'm trying to understand what you're already saying about.
I have said it. You want me to repeat it then?
Yes.
Let me repeat it slowly. She is a bad captain. And she has been a bad captain now for years.
Okay. All right, but you probably distracted me from your very point when you said that Haley captain from the third match on. Because from the third match on...
We started from the semi-finals.
I asked the question, who are the possible candidates if we're going to relieve Stefani of the captaincy?
But
we have a serious problem in that regard, because the truth is, and I suspect that's why Stefani was made captain in the first place. There were not a lot of people who were consistent performers in the West Indies team at the time then. And there, even now, we'll still struggle to say, here's a player that we are sure is going to command a play for the next 3 years. We always talk about the big three. We know who they are. We know that the team really doesn't function well without them doing well. After that, you struggle. Shadeen Nation is now an elderly stateswoman, and I'm not sure she'll be here for the next one. Anisa Mohammed is also in that age group. They're the young players who are now coming in.
Afi is not getting any younger.
No, right, all of them. So the truth is, we don't have a lot of options. I simply made the point.
Haley is 24.
But I'm not suggesting that.
Okay, wait, Deighton, hold on. I think this goes back to Wayne's question. Wayne asked for the options. Hartley,
it's probably just Haley and DeAndre.
So Hartley, you're saying
the only two.
Other than the current captain.
DeAndre is 30. The captain is 30. Haley is 24. Give the captaincy to Haley and then build a team around her.
I wanted to hear you call a name because Wayne asked for your choice. The choice can be basketball, something that have 4 captains. You don't have that in cricket very much. Certainly not at the international level. So your choice is Haley. Tell me something though, Hardy. I recall when we discussed the Barbados team some months back, you were saying that DeAndre was the best person to captain the Barbados side ahead of Haley. But yeah, so how do you rationalize?
Would you please slow down because you cannot double talk me?
I don't follow.
When I said that Barbados was going to the Commonwealth Games, a historic occasion, first time in the history of female cricket.
Right.
DeAndre Deighton was the most explosive cricketer and the senior Barbados cricketer, and I said that DeAndre Deighton should take Barbados to Manchester to come at the Commonwealth Games. That is what I said.
So you believe then that DeAndre should have taken the Barbados team to the Commonwealth Games, and Haley should captain the West Indies team moving forward.
So what's the correlation?
What's the correlation?
What we got this idea that the captain of the West Indies must captain Barbados?
It's not a matter of correlation, Hardy. I'm simply trying to find out exactly what you're saying.
Well, you're not asking. You just made a statement. I want with a little thing in it.
You're suggesting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
I'm suggesting that. Fair enough. Deighton, what's your view? Hartley's captain for the West Indies.
Sorry.
Who's yours?
But Mike wants to say something, and since we're talking about Haley, I really hear Mike's views first.
No, I was just gonna
going to spur Mike let's say that option of making a choice.
Well, no, it's not.
He can't defend himself and his daughter. Let Mike talk.
No, I don't speak with daughter very much, to be honest.
You don't do it?
No, I was just gonna say Hartley is saying that DeAndre should captain the team to Manchester because she's the most experienced. She's had the most experience. She's the most experienced Barbados player in the team. Is that correct, Hartley?
Sure.
Right. Okay. But if she's the most experienced, then obviously she then is the most experienced in the West Indies team also.
But are you going to move the captaincy from a 30-year-old to give another 30-year-old for the future?
Okay, so are you going to move the captaincy from a 24-year-old who captained Barbados, who won every single game, to give it to a 30-year-old?
Yes.
Here's my view. Right. Here's my view. I have seen Haley Matthews captain Harrison College under 13 team. Was it on the 13 or on the 15, Mike? It was on the 13, right? Yeah.
On the 13.
On the 13, right.
Yeah.
And from then until now, each time I have seen her lead a team, she's actually done it very well. There's always a delicate balance to be had when you're going to hand captains to someone, is whether it is too soon while they're developing their own game or not. The truth is, when I've seen her captain before, she's handled it well. And I'm not suggesting that Stephanie Taylor doesn't have leadership abilities. My simple suggestion at the beginning was she seems to be struggling with her own rehabilitation after whatever issues she had last year. And I was simply saying, perhaps removal of that burden would help. And if we do go that road, I do think that Haley Matthews would be an excellent choice.
Fair enough.
But I would not even go as far back as
Okay, go ahead, man. I thought you were there.
as the I said I wouldn't go very far back. If I were an observer of West Indies cricket, and I have started to follow the West Indies women's team over the last 2 years, I would have observed a level of maturity and growth in Haley
Absolutely.
Matthews.
Absolutely.
And she has emerged out of this tournament as part of the leadership group. Once this tournament started, it was obvious that Haley
Yeah.
Matthews was part of the leadership group. And I mean, this tournament was the making of Haley Matthews as a world figure in women's cricket. Yes, she has always been promising. She has done well. She was very, very well respected. But I thought that this tournament is where she really stamped her authority on the world game, on the world stage. And I recognize a level of maturity coming through from her. And I was able to sit and say, okay, I have found my next captain.
How are we going to find greater depth, guys? Because the captaincy, well, is important. Um, if you don't have a team to lead, you're still not going to get your contract to work. So we've had our views on the captaincy. We agree that even if we don't agree on the reasons, we certainly agree that Stephanie Taylor, even if in her own best interest, should probably not be saddled with the leadership at this time. She's got some issues surrounding her game to sort out, and therefore somebody else probably should pick up that mantle. Most people here seem to think, if not all, that Haley Matthews is the person. But that's only one aspect of the way forward. An important aspect, but one aspect. What are the other things you think?
But before we go ahead, Philip, before we go ahead, I just want it to be noted that there's no disrespect for Stephanie Taylor.
None at
Absolutely
all.
none.
Stephanie Taylor
Absolutely
has
none.
been a beacon.
None at all.
She has been a beacon in West Indies cricket. As I
I'm
said,
with
an
you 100%.
all-time great. The only all-time great women's cricketer that the West Indies has ever produced. She has led the team well. She has brought us a lot of glory. But there's a
Yeah.
time for everything.
Yeah.
There's a time for everything. And I mean, this is almost a decade now that Stephanie would have
She has
been
my greatest
the
respect.
captain of the team.
Yes.
And every person's time comes,
Yeah,
and maybe the time has
that's
come
why I
for
made the
Stephanie,
point that
for
while
Stephanie
she
to,
works on some
sit
aspects of
back.
her game that need attention, and
Right,
this probably can't
just
get
to
it.
sit
Let's
back,
not cover that.
and enjoy the rest of her career.
Yeah.
Just to sit back and enjoy the rest of her
I think
career,
that point. I think
and
that point.
let's hope that we can get.
Yeah.
Okay, right.
In terms of finding new players, here's the thing. We have to start by being realistic. Our greatest concern obviously is our batting. Apart from the fact we have some reasonably decent bowling already, we also have a few in the wings that are there. Kiana Jones, the left arm spinner, etc. We've got a few that we can go to, but the batting is the concern, and we have to start by being realistic. I certainly don't know of anybody here who might know, could tell me, but I do not know of any ready-made replacements that we have around the Caribbean now to walk into an international team and do well. So we got to be realistic about that and start saying, what do we do and what's the timeline? I think there are some young players out there that we can work with, but we have to start working with them now and do not expect that they are going to solve our batting problems next month or the next 3 months. We have to work with them now and give them a 2-year window minimum to say, we are going to have these people. And I'll tell you one of the people that we should be working with straight away, Rashada Williams. Rashada Williams needs some work to get her to be ready to really handle opening the batting at national level. I think you've got something to work with, but you need to do the work now. We have to identify those people, and we have to put them on an accelerated, very structured, very well planned program. Not simply go in the nets and hit a few balls. I'm talking about a really properly planned and structured program to elevate them from the level they are at to a point where we can actually put them on the field in national game. And that we got to be realistic. That will not happen next month or the next 3 months. We don't have anybody at that stage ready to step in. So we've got to start thinking realistically and say, let's identify those ones and let's put that program in place to get them ready.
You think the problem? Sorry, let's say one thing. And the problem is, right, Deighton, is that our girls play 5, 6 games.
I'm with you, Mike. I agree.
And there's no way that we can find talent and grow our talent by playing 5 games a year.
Well,
we can
Mike,
have we can have all the camps we want. A camp will not grow players.
Well, Mike, you
It's
stole
back in
my.
the games. Huh?
No, no, I was going to say that you stole my thought because I was about to
Yes.
make the point that remember we haven't had a domestic competition for the past 3 years now. Well, let's say since 2019, and
Yeah.
going forward, we need to promote a lot more competition, just to echo what Mike was saying, and provide a lot more cricket for the girls to play. And that way, we will get an opportunity to see what is the talent, what are the resources that we have out there. And it starts by providing opportunities
But
for the ladies to play.
but you recall I said that there must be a structured program to get these ladies to the level they need to be at, and that has to be part of the program. You can't bat in the nets all the time and improve. You've got to be able to apply those skills in a pressure situation with 11 fielders trying to stop you from scoring. And so that has to be part of any program that you develop. All I'm saying is I'm not going to sit here and develop it, but there must be a program that is developed for those girls to get them where they need to be.
But then you must have read my mind, and you answered, you responded to me before I got a chance to
Yeah.
you. And he said to the greatest respect, and I think you know why. I was going to ask you, and ask you no, but who is going to design this program? And I said that because I've heard many suggestions from many people in many various places about all sorts of things that relates to women's cricket and men's cricket. I've seen very few contributions that would qualify as a program. You yourself put forward something some weeks ago in a forum which I was also present. And before you could even get to point three, people started to pull it down. You know, and I realized that I would say quite wisely, you not withdrew your thinking, but you didn't work to persuade anymore. And I think you were quite right as well, because you know sometimes it doesn't really go fit. You know, putting something up there that can't be appreciated. So who is going to actually design this program? Because I don't know that we have an outstanding history of that type of thing.
Yeah. Well, we're trying to grow West Indies cricketers. So any initiative like that has to be led, in my view. And I'm not to say led; they don't have to be the only ones by Cricket West Indies. Now, to their credit, they have announced that there's an academy on the way, and that it will include women. I don't have the details of it, so I'm not going to go too deeply into trying to critique it. What I'm saying is they've shown the inclination to get to work on it. We have to give them some time to see all of what they produce and how effective it is. But it certainly has to be led by Cricket West Indies. I don't know if anybody disagrees with me.
No,
Yes, certainly.
I don't disagree with you. I actually think that your what you just said, pretty much. I don't. I think it's a very mature and realistic approach to the whole thing. You said an academy. I guess the academy was nostalgic, but clearly there's work to be done on it. I wish we all could see that, because sometimes we want a quick fix, or we seem to want something that today when we look at it, we recognize, yes, if we follow this, things will change. There are very few things that happen that way. Developmental programs are not just created overnight. It's a process, and you don't necessarily wait until the entire thing is created to start implementing certain aspects of it. So yes, I think it's a very good thing that Cricket West Indies recognize the need for the academy and have announced that. But you know, it's going to take more than 5 minutes to explain the whole thing.
Yeah,
It has nothing to do with an academy.
What has nothing to do with the academy?
What is needed for West Indies women has little or nothing to do with an academy, because in my dumb view, an academy is when you get right and you're going up top. You don't have an academy at primary school, unless I don't understand. Our problem is that we have continued to believe that the women's cricket is similar to the men's cricket. Men's cricket is a natural phenomenon. You come out as a little boy, you play cricket, you come through. But we didn't do that because women's cricket is very, very new and a distant cousin to men's cricket. So what has to happen once we have decided that we are going to compete as in the female arena, then we have to tailor the programs from the primary schools. We in Barbados had years ago, we had a decision where the National Sports Council said that one girl will start in the primary school in every primary school team. Over the years, and that produced all of them, all the great ones that we both sent out. No, they came up that way, including Haley. But you know what has happened? We have refused to seriously look at women's cricket. Even now, the territories, each territory has to have the responsibility to develop its own area where it comes to women's cricket. So as Deighton said, Cricket West Indies is the boss. They run the cricket in the region. So they have a set policy. And then the territories, these 6 territories, will then implement it and report to Cricket West Indies. Every month, Cricket West Indies is given a certain sum of thousands of US dollars to all 6 territories, and specifically to develop women cricket. Every month for the last 2 years. And we can see nothing. The only thing we have seen was the Windward Islands, the other day, Shallow started, he produced a document. No, none of the other 5, including Barbados. We have done absolutely nothing for women cricket. So what we expect, do we expect we can get the country? Because all we do is talking. We are talking and talking, but you're not hearing anything from any of the authorities in the region about what are their plans, if any, about for women cricket.
Okay,
You
guys.
know,
This is something that we can talk on for the duration of this program, the next and the one after that, and then some. But what we want to do, we want to make sure that when we conclude for a specific period, that is any discussion, that there's something meaningful that can come from it, that we leave something meaningful out there, that somebody who's listening may very well be able to take and run with. So I'm going to throw this to each of you guys. If you were appointed director of cricket tomorrow with a 6-month contract, and the idea was to come up with something to improve cricket, women's cricket you're talking about, I just want you to tell me the first 2 things that you would put in place. I don't want you to try to outline everything, because that means that you're going to be here until the Christmas edition of the program. You got to start somewhere. I just want each of you to tell me the first 2 things that you would put in place. And if those things overlap, that's not a problem. So whoever goes first, if the second person figures, oh, he took my idea, that's not a problem. If all you've got the same 2 things I have, it would mean probably that we all on the right track. Okay, so let's go with Mike first. Mike, what would be the 2 things you would put in place if you woke up tomorrow and found that you were offered the job of director of the district?
The first thing I want to do is, as I said before, organize women's tournaments where the girls are playing lots of cricket. It's not good to play 5 games a year, 6 games a year. That will never help our cause. So the first thing I want to do is to make sure that our women are playing against each other, on a weekly basis, obviously money allowing. On a weekly basis, just how we have our regional tournaments where we play home and away, and the guys play maybe 12, 14, 12 games a year or whatever in regional cricket. That's the first thing I want to do for the women. The other thing would be, to get the academy up and running and have those youngsters that love the game and want to play the game. Pick out, maybe 10, 12 of them who show the talent and get them into academy, get some qualified
players. By the way, because academy could be any age dependent. The way I see the term used nowadays, it seems as though age doesn't matter. What age are you looking at academy?
No, between 12 and 16.
Between 12 and 16, okay.
Yeah, getting those girls.
Academy that addresses that kind of an age. Okay.
Yes, of course.
What about you, Ed?
well, the first thing I would want to see happen is to pursue the creation of a culture of women's cricket throughout the Caribbean. Mind you, we have done exceptionally well with the very limited resources that we have. And when I say resources, I'm not talking about money, and I'm talking about personnel wise, because cricket among women is not a cultural thing. It is not something that our societies even accept. I'm not even so sure that our societies have accepted the idea of women playing cricket yet. So my first wish would be to create that culture for women's cricket to be part and parcel of the landscape in the Caribbean. The other end of the scale, the academy that we speak about, an elite finishing school, if you may call it that, but an elite program where we have our best players, put through a comprehensive preparation for taking on the rest of the world for international competition. I heard they talk about the academy and Asia and whatever. The National Cricketers Academy in India doesn't cater to any particular age. It starts from the junior levels and it goes right up to the top test players. I mean, they are all eligible at some point or another. People go to the National Cricket Academy in India to refurbish their games. People.
I think Vin is more about the expert resources that are there in terms of human resources, also the facilities. I think that's what is really more about, as opposed to the age. So you're quite right in that regard.
Right, but just to get back to your question, those two things, culture, the creation of a cricket culture, and the creation of the finishing school, the finishing apparatus for your best players, where you have an elite group of players who are being prepared specifically.
Gotcha, covered. What about you, Deighton?
I think the first thing I would want to do is to create a cricket pathway for girls. Let me explain that. Right now, the West Indies has produced the great Stephanie Taylor. We have Deighton. We have produced, I think, probably one of the most exciting young players in the world now in Haley Matthews. But here we are sitting saying, where are the others? Because there's no pathway that we can see the others coming along. And so we need to have that kind of cricket pathway where we know how we are going to get young girls interested in the game and into playing cricket, and then how they progress along that path to the point where they can play regional cricket and international cricket. I think that is just a few words, but it's actually a hell of a lot of work in trying to produce something like that. And then the second thing that I think I would like to see happen right now is a very serious talent identification exercise, meaning talent at the level where in 2 years' time we can get them playing international cricket. And I would like to see that happen in this way, not for Deighton Smith to pick a set of people from Barriers and say, I suggest these, but to have the coach of the West Indies cricket women's team with a contingent of whoever he thinks he needs, including director of cricket, to actually come to each of these territories and see these people that we are proposing. If we say we have 10 girls here who are really good, let's have a camp in Barbados for them. And the purpose of that camp is to see what talent level we have firsthand, not anybody suggesting them. And then they do it in Trinidad and they do it in Guyana and they do it so that at the end of the day, they are very aware of what's the talent out there and then can work out how do we then develop that talent.
Director of Cricket, Reid.
We do not have, and when I say we, here in Barbados, we do not have to reinvent the wheel. We have over 80 primary schools in Barbados, the National Sports Council, the Ministry of Education, and the BCA must sit down. They must sit. Because right now, cricket is an industry. Unless whether we want to believe it or not, Deighton just identified it. He wanted a pathway. The pathway now is pay. We have a goal. The same way how the men can make a proper living in cricket, the women. So once we can show the parents, male fathers and mothers, aunts and uncles, where their children, their wards can make a proper living in a sport, but then the National Sports Council, that's their job. They get the money, every money from the lottery, it's from the cricket lottery. So it's not to say that they do not have any money. They have, the National Sports Council has cricket money where they can go into every primary school and pick 2 girls, not even one now, 2 girls, to say, this is what we're doing. Some of the money that they're getting, we hire cricket coaches because there was a downturn in the economy in the early 21st century. So the National Sports Council cut back on all the coaches. But okay, they recognize now that cricket is the industry. That is, we hire the cricket coaches and put them back in the primary schools and come forward. And secondly, carry out an audit in the secondary schools where the girls are, that who would have come through the primary school system and now have gone on into secondary schools, and try to entice them back into cricket. We do not have to reinvent the wheel, gentlemen. We have the system there. What we need is leadership on it.
Well, that's why I suggested that, that's why I put the scenario, if you were director of cricket. So maybe there is a message in that somewhere that may be a requirement to fill that void, not necessarily by creating a new position that may cause additional expense, that may be one way to go, but you already got boards that have people on them. And I don't know, how you create that director of cricket may vary from franchise to franchise or from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. But somebody needs to take the lead, as you quite rightly said. So, gentlemen, thanks very much for those suggestions. They are certainly very worthwhile. I think all of them in some form or fashion. You might need to maybe tweak and so on, and that's all part of the whole system of creating, a program. You want to tweak from time to time. But I think you guys are pretty much well on track.
We'll be back on Anything Cricket. Let's talk. That's our show. Thanks for watching. Join us again soon for another episode of Anything Cricket. Let's talk.